What is happening, guys? Martin Martinez back again. As you can see per the banner, this is about lifestyle, dating, and motivation. So guys, if you do not know already, please do not forget to comment, like, subscribe. Let's get into it in respect of this particular video. Anyway guys, so these are just 5 things that I learned being around rich people or millionaires, and depending on what you do, guys, you're going to come across different people in your lives where you may not even know that they're actually in that position. So don't be fooled and don't think that it's about the flashy car and the flashy watch. Is not necessarily about that. Some people are very genuine, some people are just down to earth, and their circumstances have taken them to where they find themselves. Again, as I say, I've had a bit of time out. I've been actually doing a few different things, and I'm just finding obviously my way as well, like I'm sure we all are. So point number 1 on the list of things that I found, I just have to read this off my list that I've got as well. Ultimately, to become successful, and again, I'm just basing this in the UK. So in the UK, I think there's, and again, looking at information, it's about 2.5 million millionaires in the UK alone. Obviously, around the world it's going to differ, and again, they're in different industries. So in the first instance, the very first things I learned, number 1, was ultimately from these guys. They basically said that to really become successful and have that level of generate cash behind you, you really need to have some type of business or offer something to people of value, in a sense that generates enough numbers and enough revenue, whether it be high ticket sale items or again only even a corner shop. You know, you can generate cash in that particular way. Now it's easier said than done to get to that point, but ultimately point number 1 was you need to have something outside of yourself that is possible to generate cash outside of the time that you can give it, if that makes sense. So a 9-to-5 job, 9 to 5, you can only work so many hours in a day. If you're working for 40 hours a week, you know, don't get me wrong, unless you're on a very, very high salary, you're not necessarily going to be in a position to just maybe generate enough money to try and get yourself out in a few years. But if you're running a business, you've got real estate, you're involved in some type of maybe buying and selling properties, flipping properties, doing different things in that way, or even again, you've got some type of business, which again, it could be even a landscaping company, it could be an architecture company, who knows, you name it. That one in itself should be the vehicle to get you to where you need to go. So that's point number 1. Also, another side point to that, a lot of times they are borderline geared, which basically means that they're using some type of debt to get them there, whether it mean like a mortgage or a bank loan or something like that to get them to the next step, not necessarily relying on their own money. So that's not necessarily anything new, it's just something to be aware of. So again, for people who aren't too sure, look into that. Look how you can create your own business. The 9-to-5 is not going to get you out of the trap, so to speak, out of the rat race. You do need to have something else going on. Point number 2, they have their problems as well. So you can have rich people problems, poor people problems. You know, we've got different points of focus. Their problems can be more to do with, again, depending on the extent of what's going on and talking about their particular business. Their problems may not necessarily be as dire that they are affected to some extent, or it could mean that people are going to lose their business, but ultimately they still have problems. Key point that they were saying to me is that just because they've got obviously money behind them doesn't mean that things stop. It's just at a different level, at a different pace maybe, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, they can't lose it all tomorrow. So that can happen as well. So don't feel that just because you get over the threshold to say you're a millionaire, it means you arrived and nothing else is going to happen. Everyone has something to deal with. Number 3, they talked about unnecessary spending, which I mean is something more like a phase that people go through. So if you're new to money, you've not been around it before in that type of way, and you're getting volumes of money coming in, maybe you will buy expensive things, expensive cars, expensive jewelry. You know, you might go through that process, and then you get to a point when you think that actually I've done enough now. But the key thing is to be mindful of is what they said is to have at least some key people around you, or at least people who are around you ideally before you got to that point who can sort of keep you in check a little bit and maybe give you the honest opinion. Maybe you're doing too much, maybe you're spending too much, maybe you're going too crazy with the way you're living your life now, depending on how you get to that particular stage. So that's a third thing to keep in mind. Again, it's crazy spending. You got to keep it in check and keep your budgets, because it's too easy to spend money that have taken, you know, a long time to create. So that's point number 3. Point number 4, and they're selling against a few different people that said this to me now, said they don't really know the true intentions of your partner, in the sense of when you meet somebody at that particular stage, if you met them before, it's very different. But if you meet them at the stage where you've already arrived, how do you introduce them to what you do? How do you let them know what you're about? And key thing also is that, are they really there for you, or are they there just because of the lifestyle that you can give them? And that's something which is a little bit of a debate. Some people said to me that they'll never know the answer to the question. They've had children, they'll never know. It's one of those things. Point number 5, again, very last one. They don't actually stop working, guys, and that's the key thing. My camera cut there, unfortunately. So point number 5 was on the list, is that they don't actually stop working. So sometimes people think about this sort of millionaire playboy lifestyle. Maybe you get over the line and you get to the point where you think, yeah, I've got it, I'm there. Holiday for 6 months in Cancun. Who knows? I don't know where you're gonna go, that's your decision, but ultimately they don't stop working, guys. It's about building then maybe a different point of focus, in that you're not so focused about the day-to-day in respect of, you know, I'm hungry, what I'm going to eat at that particular level. But it's like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you get to a point of self-actualization, you know, our perspectives always continue to change as we grow older and as we have different commitments and different things going on. So ultimately, guys, a lot of them, they're about their business. And it's the same thing when you look at Jay-Z and different rappers and everyone else like that, and people doing their thing. They don't actually stop working. So don't feel that, again, if you do get yourself to that point from what I'm seeing and what I've been told and what's been explained to me, don't feel like you take your foot off the gas. It just maybe goes in a slightly different direction. The very final point I want to say, and the very final point I want to know, and again, this is a little side bonus for you. Ultimately, time is the biggest luxury, and the key thing is about buying your time back, so you don't necessarily have to be in the trenches necessarily. You know, you can help uplift other people while along the way, but ultimately that's the key thing, is getting to a stage that you can actually buy your time back and dictate how you want to live your own life, guys. So those are the things that I learned along the way, guys. Very interesting stuff. Again, hopefully see you in the next video. Peace.